The next step is we have data. What do we do with it?
Yes.
Are we doing anything with it?
If you don't know how much rock is at a given customer site, at the ready mix plant, down at the tunnel project, or what you have back in the quarry, and now suddenly material runs out, it just drives chaos throughout your whole dispatch plan that has to be, responded to in real time.
This is Mark Kuhar, editor of Rock Products, and we're live at the AggNexus Digital Innovation Conference. And today I'm talking with David Boardman of Stockpile Reports. David, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. It's great to be back here again for a second year, and it's great to see you. I still remember the first time we met, over 10 years ago, when I tracked you down at a show and said, hey, I got this crazy idea to measure piles with a phone, and you didn't believe me, and we sat and talked, and it blew your mind.
I remember that.
It was a long time.
It was at the Ag 1 show, and you and I sat down. I think it's some other people with you too.
It was before we even went live. I was just trying to figure out, would there be any interest in this? I was like, well, whoever runs this rock magazine would know. So I remember.
And you showed me what you were talking about. You kind of took me through the steps one by one, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to just like revolutionize things. And you were encouraged after our conversation, and I don't know what steps you took from there.
You were a big part of us deciding to go all in. Yeah, I think we were experimenting with Knife River in the Northwest. We still hadn't publicly launched anything, and I was still trying to figure out, is there even a market for this? And man, there sure is. There sure was, because what I had never walked on a quarry before. I'd never worn a hard hat or steel-toed boots, and I didn't really appreciate how hard it is to manage the inventory of something that doesn't come in a box and something that doesn't have a barcode.
Right.
But man, yeah, everybody I talked to was just blown away. They were like, oh my gosh, we have such a hard time not having write-offs when we do our inventories. And, people literally were losing jobs and losing bonuses because it's just impossible. It's impossible to measure these piles of rock.
Yeah. Well, the way they were doing it is, it was not only inefficient, it was unsafe, because I've been in aggregate plants where you'd find some guy climbing on a stockpile somewhere. Oh, what was he doing? Oh, we're taking a little inventory here.
I have some old videos when we were going out doing some first field tests where this one company had a guy who would wear a helmet, and he had the RTK stick, and he literally would run up and down the piles. He was a nut. I wish I could remember which company and name it was, but this guy, it was like, I think he's viewed it as a personal challenge, and it was terrifying. It's terrifying to see people on the tops of piles, especially when you have those big, with the sharp angle of repose on the side. If people get a little too close, and then the riprap piles with a lot of busted knees.
Oh yeah,
those were the early days.
Well, I get periodically, I'll get the MSHA fatality alerts that MSHA sends out when they document when someone loses their life in a quarry, and there's been a fair number of that involve stockpiles. So when I see that, it's like but
it has, and this was before drones, right? Before drones were legal. So I mean, now we can get whether it's imagery from an airplane or imagery from a drone, then you can improve safety even more by not even having anybody on the site. As great as it is to be able to walk around a pile with a phone, that's still not something you want to be doing on an active site. And so, even now taking imagery from airplanes, drones, and sometimes satellite kind of works for some of the bigger operations, especially the mines, not so much the aggregate guys. But yeah, then you don't even need anybody on the site. That's the safest.
And when you started, I mean, heck, a lot of people still didn't have iPhones back when you started with this.
No, they were.
What version of iOS was it play?
If version of iOS is a great question. I don't know, but it was the iPhone 4. I'll have to go back and look to see what version of iOS that was. But if you remember, you put us on the cover of that June issue of Rock Products.
Oh yeah,
2013.
that was super high tech.
That was an iPhone 4.
That blew people away. They were able to see, that hand with the phone out in the stockpile, and that really got a lot of attention. Yeah, it really did.
Yeah, so it's funny to be sitting here all these years later now. iPhone 17
just came out with 17.
Yeah, that we've just been focused on. How do we make it easier and faster and more accurate with the technology that keeps coming out year after year? So we are still laser focused on the same thing. It's just technology keeps changing from hardware, to the cameras on the hardware, to algorithms and that get invented, AI. It's nonstop contributions.
What type of challenges do you incur when when Apple upgrades to an iPhone 17? Is there anything that throws you a curve right from the get-go, or is it seamless, or how does
Yeah,
it work?
so luckily we have a very strong relationship with Apple, and so we can get some, I won't say early access devices, but we definitely get first access to devices.
Hmm.
But we get each model that comes out. For example, we already got the 17, 17 Pro, the Air, because what we have to do is we have to run calibrations on the
Mhm.
cameras, and that's one of the reasons we were so gung ho on the iPhone, is because with our algorithms and what we're doing with these different technologies, we need to model that light as it comes through the glass and hits the sensor.
Mhm.
So it's important for us to run our algorithms, calibrate them when the new devices come out, and then use those calibrations in our software. So that's really the only work we have to do with each release. But then, yeah, they always throw in something strange where
Mhm.
in the iOS 26, we had to scramble because I still don't know why, but some of the buttons went from nice regular size down to like literally you couldn't see them on the screen.
Mhm.
So then you have to panic and fix things and get releases out. But in general, it goes smooth each year.
So you probably dread when they announce they're coming out with a new version. It's like, oh crap, we got to go
You
through
know,
all of
there's a
this.
little bit of dread, but there's more excitement because,
Yeah.
when we started this, we had really bad imagery on that iPhone 4, very bad autofocus, very slow light painting there on the sensors. We get tons of motion blur and all kinds of stuff. So now, each release we get excited because the camera just keeps getting so much better, so much better.
Mhm.
It operates in low light now like you wouldn't believe. There's some guys that get out there at, before sunrise, before, when there's
Mhm.
just a glow in the air. And we're getting great measurements on that now, where when we started, boy, it was, I don't know if you remember when we took you out, like you had to make sure you didn't walk too fast, not too
Oh
slow,
yeah.
because you wanted that
There's
autofocus to have time to get a good clear image.
there's limitations at that
We
point.
got guys out putting their headlights on in their truck at 4:35 in
Mhm.
the morning, just shining on the pile, walking around, and these cameras today are just awesome. So, we haven't put the 17 through the full paces yet,
Mhm.
but I'm gonna be excited to see how much further it takes us into being able to measure successfully in those challenging conditions, low light, dust, textureless materials,
Mhm.
golf course sand. I mean, imagine it just looks like a pure, white paint there.
Mhm.
The way our algorithms work, we need to be able to get, grab some pixels. And so when you have that perfectly white sand, lots of times measurements would fail. But, when the iPhone 16, 17, the camera was getting good enough that we were starting to see some texture on those
Mhm.
sand piles. And so I'll be really curious to see now, like with the 17, 17 Pro, like, does it get even better to measure things like really dark, fine coal or white
Mhm.
golf course sand, things like that. So yeah, it is a little bit of a pain that we have to deal with some software tweaks, but the upside is always so much better. The increased RAM, the increased processing power. That's why 2.5 years ago, we started to be able to do this in real time on the device. I don't know if I think we shared that
You
with
did.
you that,
Yeah,
yeah,
you
I mean,
did.
now the guys just as soon as they walk around the pile, maybe 1, 2, 3 seconds, depending on the size of the pile, you've got your answer, you've got your contour, you've got a spinning 3D model. I mean, think of how far that's come from a decade ago. It's crazy. And where's it gonna be a decade from now? So, we'll probably still be here talking, doing the same thing.
So with although Apple may
Mhm,
now have that iPhone 17, in terms of your customers actually using
mhm.
equipment, where are they? Are they using iPhone 14? Are they using
Yeah,
13? I mean, where are they at
great
with their
question, and I wish
technology?
I had the little graph we could just pop up in the back. We can put that in later. Um there's always, I don't know, a few hundred people who pop up in the first month
Mhm.
with new devices, but it's not a whole lot. It's really about 3 years we see
Hmm.
so 3 years from now, the iPhone 17 will be the dominant device that's used for measuring.
Mhm.
So it's about a 3-year process from when a new device comes out to when it's the mainstream device that's used by our customers.
Mhm.
And then we still do have a lot of 16, 15, 14, 13, 12s. There's a lot of 12s still out there at work,
Hmm.
iPhone 12s and 12 Pros. We still see some 8s and some 7s,
Mhm.
but not too many.
So for your customers, is there a learning curve for them when they upgrade to a phone? Is it basically they're going to just do the same thing they always did? They just happen to have a more powerful tool to do
That's
it
right.
with.
Yeah, I'm not aware that it really impacts users much when they get a new device and how
Mhm.
they use SR measure with stockpile reports. Yeah. But all this talk about Apple, we did start supporting Android. It's been about 3 months now. We went all in on the Samsung Galaxy S25.
Mm-hmm.
We picked the S25 because it's the highest end. It's about the
Mm-hmm.
equivalent of, say, the iPhone 16. Maybe it's a little better. And that's been very well received. There's a lot of Samsung Galaxy users out there around the world,
Mm-hmm.
and it's literally around the world these days. I don't know if last time we talked, but we have people measuring on all 7 continents, about 130 some odd countries.
Mm-hmm.
It's always fun to see where the new measurements are starting to flow in from in a given day. But Android has taken off.
So where do you see the split there? I mean, how many people are using Apple devices versus Android in your experience?
Well, this is interesting because Android, there are hundreds and hundreds of different combinations of devices that can be used.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say we're supporting Android, we're really only supporting that Samsung Galaxy and then a specific model. So that kind of puts it in the world of saying, hey, how does that S25 maybe compare to the iPhone 16? Because it's the highest end, maybe now the 17, right? But when we were looking over the last, say, 3 months, we've really been doing this, there's actually been more downloads on the S25 than the iPhone 16s. And but there's still more measurement activity because people have been downloading the iPhone 16 for a long time. But it's going to be interesting to see how the 17 curves out. But so far, I don't know, it's probably too early to tell, but it looks comparable in terms of the folks who are downloading and successfully measuring and continue to measure over time, at least over 3 months, with the S25 and the iPhone 16. So, well, a year from now, I'll have a lot more data to share. But and it is different by country and by parts of the world.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So in terms of actual usage of the technology, what are some of the biggest problems out there that aggregates producers have in utilizing the technology, jumping on board, maintaining the level of competence that they want to maintain? Is there challenges out there that you're constantly having to oversee?
There's there's always challenges. I think in this, we're still at that phase of why. Why should I measure? Right? Why should I measure? Just estimate and guess, and that's good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And Bob's been here 20 years, and he's a good guesser,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the motivation to measure and the motivation for good data, that's still the friction, and that's still the challenge. So when there's low motivation to measure, people come up with all kinds of reasons why things won't work or don't work,
Mm-hmm.
and lots of times it's just excuses because you're not necessarily trying to figure things out. So we do see a lot of friction around still, like, well, I can't get around this pile. I can't see all this pile. I can't do whatever, right? And it's like, well, okay, well, if you watch some videos, talk to us, you can see some tips and tricks. You can do it, right? But there's usually a lot of folks who they're just not motivated to measure, and I don't blame them. I mean, there's lots of things in my job I don't want to do expense reports,
I hate
things like
expense
that.
reports, actually.
So we need to see measurement become something that people are excited to do, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going to be excited until they either alleviate some pain or get some pleasure, right? That's what we always say
Yeah.
when you're trying to drive change. And really, I think now we're maybe at that phase finally because of AI, the big buzzword and hype. It's because people are investing more in seeing how can they do automation or optimization leveraging AI technologies. And they have huge returns out of the gate and everybody gets all excited. And then they start getting bad answers. And they're like, well, how come this magical AI is giving us a non-optimal answer? And you say, well, because the data you're feeding this thing is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right, or it's not accurate, right? So what we're seeing now is that I think more people are interested in getting good data
Mm-hmm.
because they're starting to do more automation. And if you can, for example, be a dispatcher and have a day of dispatch go wonderful without a lot of reroutes or wrong order or not enough trucks or whatever the headache is, if a day can go smooth, that's a lot of pleasure, right? But now as we're trying to apply those algorithms to dispatch and things like that, if you don't know how much rock is at a given customer site, at the ready mix plant, down at the tunnel project, or what you have back in the quarry, and now suddenly material runs out, it just drives chaos throughout your whole dispatch plan that has to be, responded to in real time. So they're starting to see, hey, wait a minute, I need an accurate physical count to get all of this automation to work. So I think we're seeing more and more people getting excited about having good inventory besides just having corporate off their butt, frankly. So they want to measure. They don't want to just say, "Hey, I got to do this damn drone flight once a quarter to keep finance off my ass and make sure I can get my bonus, and make sure my number comes in right," which has really been the motivation to measure has been fear and wanting to get that bass boat. But now I think there's more motivation to say, "Hey, we want to get accurate physical count because it allows us to figure out things from dispatch to, how are the screens configured? Am I generating too much waste? Like all that drives a need for accurate physical count. Does that make sense?
So let's take it one step further.
Yeah.
You've got an aggregates producer that you finally have convinced that they need to be doing this for the benefit of their operation. They need to collect this data. The next step is we have data. What do we do with it?
Yes.
And are we doing anything with it? Now, is that something that you see as an additional challenge?
Oh,
Them
it
to
is the
actually
challenge.
utilizing the data?
Well, it is the
to the-
challenge, and I think that you all put out a little soundbite, or maybe my team did, I don't know, but from last year's panels at AggNexus, and somebody was asking a similar question about organizational change and, how do you, get people motivated to do these things? I was like, "It's not my job." I mean, I've been doing it, especially the first 5 years. I worked a lot with CFOs and VPs of regions, trying to convince them of, "Hey, if you just get your data better off, you're not gonna generate as much waste, which is gonna reduce the cost, and you can lower your price per ton." I'm like, "Why am I doing that? I'm a computer vision expert and a machine learning guy, and where are those people in the industry? They're gonna lead that change." So, I can come to conferences like this, I can try to inspire people about the benefits of this change, but at the end of the day, people need to decide, organizations are gonna need to decide themselves that they want to change and it's time to change, or there's going to need to be industry consultants and other folks who come in and drive that. That's what happens in other industries.
Mhm.
There's your Price Waterhouses and your, love them or hate them. They still play a very important role in the industry of helping businesses move forward and drive change at scale. And that's what has to happen in the aggregates industry. And I don't know, I open my mouth more than I should, but I kinda gave up on the aggregates industry a couple of years ago, and, I've had so many meetings trying to say, "What's it gonna take? A nickel a ton, a quarter a ton, a dollar a ton?" What's it gonna take to actually start to drive automation that's gonna drive demand for measurement beyond the quarterly count? And, it just kept hitting brick walls, and so 2.5 years ago, when we got that real-time ability, I was like, "You know what? I'm going after the individual. I'm going after the hard worker, right? I'm going after the homeowner who just got a mulch delivery, who doesn't know if their ticket's right?" So we just started focusing on getting our app into the App Store and now the Google Play Store and just getting it out there. People measure once a day for free. They're finding all kinds of new things to do. The hard worker who is creative at an aggregates company is downloading our app and using it, and they're not coordinating with IT. They're not getting corporate approval. They're just getting the app, putting it in their pocket. They're using it once a day for free. Or we see lots of folks with email addresses from some of these customers, from some of the big guys that are here, that are putting it on a credit card.
Mhm.
Right, and it's not going through a big IT purchase where I have to justify and try to build some business case for a large deal. So
Mhm.
we kinda changed the strategy because the industry wasn't changing and wasn't moving beyond, "Hey, I need to do a monthly count to keep finance off my butt," right? And so we just kinda shifted strategies. We'll still come back when the industry's ready to go. We're
Yep.
there. We're ready to give them that great data. But for the last 2 years, it's been how do we go to the prosumer? How do we go from the homeowner to the contract crusher to the little landscape materials company, to maybe the creative guy at the aggregate site who does wanna manage his site a little better than others, but they don't have to cooperate and coordinate with corporate. Make sense?
It does make sense. So, to kind of wrap up here, we're here at the AggNexus Digital Innovation Conference, David. Um, how do you see this event kind of helping the industry in dealing with its technology challenges?
I I'm a huge fan. I mean, obviously, I help support the event, but I'm a huge fan of it because I love in other industries as well, when you can create what is called a smaller campfire, right? Where people can truly have conversations and go deep. There's so many large format events where it's tough. You just kinda go from booth to booth. Maybe,
Mhm.
somebody sets you a nice bourbon tasting or a nice
Mhm.
dinner, but people don't really get to pull off into the corner and go deep into conversations, around their business and around just the state of technology in general and specific technology. So for me, last year, I found it insanely valuable. Just the quality of conversations and the depth of the conversations that I haven't had in any other aggregates or rock-oriented event.
Mhm. Well, we appreciate your participation here. You're certainly one of the driving forces on the technology side of the industry. We certainly need more of that, and we look forward to what happens here at AggNexus.
Yeah, I look forward to being here and talking about
Uh,
this 10 years from now and see what happens.
and we'll talk more in the future.
All right.
Thanks.
All right, great to see you.
Yep.